In a year of book chats and my ever-growing hair, there were still some that I missed. Today on Book Chats, I'm going to tell you about my top 5 books that I forgot to tell you about. Hey guys, it's Miss Cote. I'm back again for another book chat. Today on Book Chats, the format is going to be a little different. So instead of focusing on one book that I really loved, I'm going to be doing a rundown of 5 amazing titles that I know you guys need to hear about before the end of the year, and I just wasn't able to sneak them into a book chat. So without further ado, let's get this countdown started. Number 5 is Parachutes by Kelly Yang. I loved this book. Sum it all up really quickly because I know I want to make sure to get through all 5 of these books. Parachutes is about Claire and Danny. So they live very different lives. Claire has grown up in China. She comes from a very wealthy family. She has everything she needs and more. And she finds out at the beginning of the book that her parents have made this kind of impulsive split-second decision to transfer her to a California high school for her final year. Things in education aren't going so well for her in China, and her parents think that she'll have better prospects if she goes to America and possibly goes to college there. So suddenly, Claire finds herself boarding with Danny and her mom. She finds herself going to this elite school with lots of kids who are like her, kids who have transferred into the school from other countries, who have very huge allowances, who have not a lot of restrictions, who kind of can do whatever they want and spend however much money they want. And it's a little bit of, it's freeing at first, but then she encounters definitely some difficulties. She's pleased that the most popular kid in school, Jay, seems interested in her, but even that gets complicated. Danny, on the other hand, is living a very different life. She and her mom work hard at their cleaning business to make ends meet, and they often struggle. Danny is hoping to get a scholarship to college. She is an elite debater, and she knows there's a scholarship out there that she can qualify for and make a college debate team. And she's very, very flattered when her debate coach wants to train with her one-on-one in private to get her up to speed so she can get this scholarship, win this competition, and go to college. But things get really complicated there as well. So these two girls initially don't seem to have much in common, but as they continue living together, as they face challenges kind of side by side, they start to connect and they start to realize that maybe they can really help each other out. This is an amazing, uplifting story that has some really difficult stuff in it, but it's comforting because these two girls rise up and face those challenges on their own and together. And ultimately, this is just a really good book, really good feel-good book. Coming in at number 4 is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book is such a joy to read. This is about Liz Leidy. She is an orchestra nerd. She dreams of becoming a doctor, and she knows exactly which elite college she wants to go to. And she's gotten in. But the only problem is she was expecting to get a really nice financial aid package, but that just didn't come through. So now she has to figure out how she's going to pay for college. Her high school is a little bit different than ours in that whoever wins prom king and queen ends up getting a pretty nice scholarship to college. And although Liz has never really thought about even running for prom queen, she decides she's going to do it with the help of her friends because she really needs that scholarship. Through the process of running, which by the way is like a way more complicated process than what we have at Champ, Liz meets Mac. Mac is a little unique. She walks to the beat of her own drum. She just moved into the town, so she's not really from the small Midwestern town where Liz grew up. And the two of them immediately connect. Some sparks fly between them and they start dating. But when Liz's friends start to try to convince her that to win prom queen, she needs to stay in the closet and pretend not to be dating Mac, Liz is confronted with this choice of, which is more important to her, this new relationship with Mac or winning prom queen and getting her scholarship and getting her dream? And really, can she have both? So this is a great, uplifting book about navigating different parts of your identity, finding out where you fit in at school. This is an excellent book if you are like a band nerd or you've ever felt kind of like a misfit at Champ. I think you'll love this book. This book is also kind of a celebration of all things different and interesting and nerdy. So totally pick this one up. My third choice is also a little bit of a cheat because this book actually doesn't come out until February 1st. But I want to give you the heads up about it now because I think so many of you are going to love this. And I got the opportunity to read it a bit early this year, so I'm in a position to tell you all the good things about it. So this book is called The Project by Courtney Summers. I've talked about Courtney Summers before. She's one of my favorite mystery thriller authors. So all of you people out there who love true crime and whodunits and picking up the clues and figuring it out and staying up way too late reading, you should join me on this one. So this book is about Lo. When she was young, she was in a horrific car accident that resulted in the death of both of her parents. And she herself was in the hospital in critical condition. So her only remaining relative after the car accident was her older sister, B. And although she has some hazy memories of being in the hospital and B being there, what she knows is that when she woke up and when she recovered, B was gone. And she ended up moving in with her aunt and growing up there. She then found out that B had joined this kind of mysterious group called the Unity Project and had become a pretty intense member. Many people called the Unity Project a cult, but also the Unity Project seemed to be doing some really great things for the community, building community centers, feeding the homeless, doing all kinds of good stuff, but there was always this kind of underlying hint that maybe something wasn't quite right with the Unity Project. And what Lo knows is that since the day that she was in the hospital, she really hasn't heard much from B. She doesn't really know where B is living, what's happening to her. She only knows that she's now in this Unity Project. So when the book starts, Lo is working at an internship at a magazine, and she decides that she wants to try and investigate the Unity Project and figure out what happened to B. She's surprised and kind of flattered when the leader of the Unity Project, Lev Warren, reaches out to her and invites her to come explore the Unity Project, see what's going on there, and kind of see for herself what it's all about. So she decides to go, and when she's there, she uncovers all kinds of secrets, all kinds of details about B's life unfold, and the ending is really intense. So if you're into that, if you love reading true crime, if you love reading about cults, I would highly recommend this book. It is so good. It comes out February 1st. We will order several copies for Champ. So we're down to book number 2. This choice is a little controversial too. You know me, I break all the rules because this is actually an adult book. So take that with a grain of salt. But this book was amazing. It's called Ring Shout by P.J. Lee Clark. If you're a person who doesn't really like a lot of horror or gore or violence, this book is not for you. It is an adult book in that way. That being said, this one goes out to all my science fiction and fantasy fans. This is for you. So this book takes place in an alternate history version of the United States in a 1920s Georgia where the Ku Klux Klan is actually founded by literal demons. In this world, literal demons are trying to infiltrate humanity, take over our minds, convince us to buy into all of this hate and terrible, violent behavior, feeding on our own racism and our own discrimination tendencies and causing havoc. Maurice Boudreau and her friends fight these demons. Maurice has a magic sword that's powered by the trauma and memories of her ancestors, and she uses it to go to battle with these demons. She's basically a superhero. So this story is her journey towards saving the world against these demons. It is detailed, it is complex, the world building is stunning. Again, there is a lot of violence in this book, so if you don't like that, you can just leave this one behind. But if you're someone who, hopefully with your parents, watched Lovecraft Country recently, I think you would adore this book. This is very much in the same vein. Or if you watched Watchmen on HBO, I think you would love this book. So give this one a try. And my final choice, my number one, I think this was my favorite book of the year. Yeah, it was. It just makes me so happy. This book is called Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. So this book is about Felix Love, whose last name is Love, but who's never actually been in love. And part of that is because he kind of holds himself apart from many people. Understandably so, because he's been hurt a lot. Felix transitioned a couple years ago, and his father has been mostly supportive, but his mother left during that time and now refuses to communicate with him and doesn't answer the few emails that he's sent. So he's living with a lot of sadness. He does have one very supportive, very loyal friend named Ezra, but also Ezra is very consumed with his own life and doesn't always seem to have time for Felix. Felix's classmates at his elite New York City art school also can say some really hurtful, ignorant things. And so he has a lot of hesitation about making connections with others. And all of that is kind of validated when he goes into his art school one day and sees that someone has taken over the gallery wall with hacked photos of him several years ago and plastered with his dead name. So these are old photos of him that no longer represent who he really is, and someone has put up his old name, which is no longer how he identifies. So he feels terribly betrayed. He's devastated, and he initially doesn't know what to do about it. But as he thinks more and more, he decides he thinks he knows who did this. He really has a suspicion that his classmate Declan, who's kind of his rival, but also kind of a frenemy, like in his friend group, but also is really insulting sometimes, has done this to him. So what he decides to do, instead of going to any of the principal or anything like that, he decides he's going to create a fake Instagram account, start messaging Declan, and try to draw out the truth from him, trying to get him to admit that he did this. But that doesn't really go as he planned. As he's messaging Declan, he finds that Declan is a little different than he perceives him to be in person. And he and Declan kind of start to be friends. Under false pretenses, of course, because Declan has no idea who he's messaging. So none of this goes to plan. But Felix starts to kind of explore his own feelings about himself. He starts to explore his ever-evolving identity. And this is just a really beautifully written book all about coming to terms with self-acceptance, about finding love after all, and finding that you deserve love, and realizing who your true friends are. Just imagine all of your favorite movies when they get to that climactic scene and everything is revealed and you have that big joyous moment. That's what this book is for me. I cried 4 times while reading this book, once out of sheer happiness. This book is like the antidote to 2020, in my opinion. Please remember that our book sale is still going. until December 22nd, and you can get Parachutes and You Should See Me in a Crown and Felix Ever After at our book sale right now. Thank you guys for joining me today for Book Chats. I'll see you next year for even more book talk and fun.